Hi.
Hi. So obviously for anyone watching who doesn't know, this is Judi James. She's the body language expert. And I'm Zoe and I'm a journalist from the Mirror Showbiz desk. So obviously strictly we've lost another couple. Loads happened over the week and we'll just get straight to it. So obviously Tony Adams and Katya are through yet again. But you picked up on this tense moment on Saturday night's show. Do you want to go through? Because it looks very awkward.
Yeah, this is why you need eyes on stalks when you watch this program, because all of the other dancers were doing what they're supposed to do, which is standing around Tess, waving to the camera, the old fake smiles, akimbo there at the end. And then suddenly in one corner, we saw Katya and Tony had not a good week this week. They had a really good week the week before, but I think he made a few mistakes or a catalogue of mistakes this week. And suddenly we could see Katya, firstly with her back to the camera. Now, it's kind of in a dancer's DNA that you would never turn your back on the camera. You would know where the camera was, you'd know what place you were supposed to be in. So suddenly we got this odd pose with her back to the camera, facing Tony, and look at Tony's reaction here. Now, she was standing there very assertively, even from back view with played. We couldn't see her facial expression, but looking at Tony's responses, even his hand in this particular pose, he's got his palms beginning to turn outwards. He's got what's called an erect thumb, and his brows are raised, so he's got all these crinkles across his forehead. What he did in response, and it was really dramatic, you could see them in the corner, he started to do a mouth shrug while she was talking. It went into a shoulder shrug, and it ended up with a full hand shrug. Almost a footballer's classic that they do when they've been accused of kicking another player or something. It's almost a classic pose. I mean, Tony would have done a pose like that on pitch many a time when the referee had come up to him, but not when Katya, the dancer, has got her back to him. So it looks for all the world as though there was a bit of a row going on there, which would absolutely fit with the storyline that we know about Katya. Katya thinks she's in the Squid Games. I don't think she thinks she's in a ballroom dancing competition. I think for her, it is genuinely a matter of life or death, and she's got to drag Tony with her. And all we keep hearing from the other dancers as well is how she shouts. We saw a huge example of that as well on Saturday, which was where when they went up after they'd done their dance, firstly you could see Ian Wright's face, who's in the audience, who's Tony's old, sorry, I'm an Arsenal fan, Tony's old teammate, doing praying hands for his mate. I mean, really looking quite scared. Tony was bent double, apologising, got a hand on his face. Katya, when she was standing there listening to the scores, she did one huge tell, which is the lower jaw up with the lower teeth sticking out, which is a real angry, frustrated, aggressive gesture to do. And she started yelling. She was going all week long. Clearly he got that right all week. And this catchphrase of hers that would terrify me, focus, focus, focus. Even when Tony put his hand on her shoulder, she kind of moved away. And normally they're always hugging one another, the dancers and everything. So that's why I think we can assume that there was a bit of what Tony calls a team talk going on. And then clearly, oh look, we're supposed to be on camera now. They turned around and Katya did this dreadful overcompensatory, it's called an overkill ritual, of a rictus, a huge rictus smile. Tony was still, his mouth had drooped by then. He was doing a tongue poke, which is a sign of disgust, really. And they started doing this silly sort of dance to camera, but it was as though the compensatory rituals were almost worse than what looked like her telling him off. So I'm fascinated as to what's going to happen with this couple, because I know that she's famous for tough love. I think she's gone beyond that now, just tough. But Tony, he was a big footballer. He's a hero to so many people. He got his mate Ian Wright in the audience, and what we are now seeing is a man bent double apologising because he didn't get his, I don't know what they call them, freckles right, or freckles or whatever they call them. And
but is that not what Tony needs? Because he's such a big character. He's coming from where he was captain. He was like one of the lead footballers, leading names in his era and stuff. And like being diplomatic, he's not the most naturally gifted dancer. So surely he needs the tough love. Because if it was someone pandering to him, he might not be improving.
I do get that, and I think it worked very well last week. I think they reached a kind of peak where they both agreed that, yeah, she's very tough with me, but look, I suddenly pulled off this fabulous dance routine. Everybody said that I was now a dancer, etc. I think we saw this week that Tony's never going to be a dancer, is he? Bless him. I mean, you know, I think that was a bit of a blip. But the point is, people would vote for Tony if he sat on the floor and sucked his thumb. I mean, if he's got all the fans voting for him, and I think what worries me is that, and he said it himself, he said that in his playing days, he once got told off a lot by a famous manager that he played for, and he walked out. And I think Katya needs to keep that in mind, because I think she doesn't want to take him to the point where he gets demotivated and walks. And he did say that he prefers more carrot than stick. So I think she needs to be careful that she's not getting to the point where she's humiliating him in front of the cameras and the public, etc.
Yeah. So elsewhere on Strictly, Kim had quite a dramatic end. Well, very tense. So I know you want to speak about this. So obviously, she's through again. I think she's having a tough week at the moment and stuff. Like she's been sick and stuff. But obviously, her and her partner locked eyes for quite a long time. I think the picture will be on next. What did you make of that tense moment?
Yeah, are you liking Kim yourself? Her dancing?
Pardon?
Are you liking Kim's dancing yourself?
Yeah, I'm not like, she's not my favourite, but she's not. I don't want her in the bottom two. So yeah. She's very neutral to me. Like I don't want her to win, but I don't want her to be in the bottom two, kind of like. So she's just firmly in the middle for me.
Yeah. For me, and this isn't just Kim, I think that Strictly this season is badly missing what I've called politely the Strictly sizzle, which was that historically we've always had couples, and there were two of them last week that really managed that kind of manufactured sexiness that you do think that, oh, maybe they are in a relationship, but then, you know, they come off the dance floor and you know that they're not. But it's the sort of thing that when you're eating your tea on a Saturday night and you're watching it, you think, oh, that was so romantic, and that really brought the hairs up on the back of my arm and things like that. We haven't got it, and we all know why we haven't got it, because they got voted out. I mean, Kai was very good at it. And obviously Giovanni was the king of that, so that walked with him. I appreciate the fact that Kim and Graziano had a real go at it, and we got this very, very good dance. And at the end, as you said, they tried to do what other dancers had done before, because I'm often asked that during that moment, that end bit, it's so sexy the way that they, you know, looked at one another. So they kind of went for that. I counted the seconds. They were 13 seconds, completely static in this pose here at the end. And you could hear that. It almost got to the point where people couldn't stand it anymore. And I think there was a loud whoop from somewhere. I think it sounded like Tess, just to kind of break the ice. But 13 seconds in that pose. And I thought, this should be really sexy. But it kind of wasn't. And I think there's a couple of reasons. Good for them, and their dance was wonderful. But Kim did look a little bit like she'd just kind of been a bit squished. You know, she didn't look particularly sexy. She got her head back and staring at him. Plus the fact that she keeps telling us, and I understand why, but he's like my little brother. Now, when you've been selling that for so long, you lose that chemistry that they should be having. I don't want to think that she's looking up at her little brother there. I want to imagine just at that 13 seconds that this is really passion. So
it really reminded me. Sorry, it reminded me of Adam Peaty last year when he locked in and it looked like he was about to kiss his partner, that had genuine passion and like tenseness. Whereas this, like, even if it looked like Kim was going to kiss him, you would know it was manufactured.
No, and you're absolutely right, because that's what those moments are about. They're supposed to fool us, and we love being fooled. That these two have done such a passionate, sexy dance that they've got to the end of it and they literally are hovering, wondering whether to kiss one another or not. I mean, they never have done, they never will do, but that's what we should be feeling. Oh my goodness, they're going to kiss one another. I didn't think that for one moment with Kim.
Yeah.
It just looked a little bit, it reminded me of Sunset Boulevard when she comes down the stairs for a close-up. Full marks to her, as I say, I must repeat it because her dance was fabulous, but somebody else, that crown is still there. The crown is waiting. The sexiest couple crown is waiting there and nobody's picked it up yet. And it's a real shame, because whoever can bring that, I think, could now nail that glitter ball, because that's what people want.
I feel like Strictly have paired people deliberately not to have any kind of romance links, like Helen Skelton's single, but she's been paired with Gorka, who's in such a committed relationship with Gemma, and then Kim's paired with someone that she's been friends with for years. It's like they've deliberately done it so there's going to be no tension.
Yeah, and I get that, and it must be a problem when you're recruiting the celebrities. I mean, the thought of actually letting your partner go into that competition with all the history that it's had, where, as somebody said, they're locked in training rooms, pelvis crashed against pelvis all week. It's obviously a problem that you do get that curse of Strictly going on. And I completely understand that. But I think just this season, they've made it so homogenized, probably because of that. We've said, haven't we, that they keep going, oh yeah, my family are over there, and my wife's here, and they're almost wearing their families as a backpack to try and get rid of that idea of a curse of Strictly. I completely get that, but I think they've gone too far, and I think that it is absolutely possible, and I think we saw it with Giovanni and Rose last year, where they really want, when they're on the floor, you thought, oh God, this is so romantic. And then they get off and start, doing banter and things like that. But just on the dance floor, somebody should be just bringing it on the dance floor. It'd be amazing.
I think it would have been nice to see Helen with Giovanni. I think that would have worked really well. Giovanni single, Helen single. And it's not to say that they'd have got together, but I think we'd have all really bought that storyline.
Can you imagine that moment, knowing that what's happened with her husband and everything? Giovanni would have been the perfect revenge man, wouldn't he? Because he can do those moments, standing on his head, probably literally standing on his head. But he would do those moments, and we'd all have this little story in our mind. Oh, good, she's got this guy, and they're absolutely drooling over one. That would have been such a good storyline. But I absolutely agree with you. There's so many people in this, and I don't know why they've paired them off with them. I don't completely get it. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the only thing I can think of is to keep the attention on the dancing, but it's got a bit too far.
Come on, who wants to watch the dancing? I mean, we like the soap plots, don't we?
The next one is Ellie T and Johannes's close friendship. So, you think these guys have got the best bond out of all the couples left?
I absolutely do. And it's almost what I was talking about with them. We're getting this wonderful kind of linear, non-verbal story of how they're getting closer. They're actually using such wonderful, tender, I'm going to use the word romantic. We know they're not a romantic couple, but look at this. It's absolutely, it makes you go, every time you watch them. This was obviously not a good thing that had happened. It was when she was getting really bad scores. But the whole ritual of the two of them together, they're so complementary in terms of those body language rituals. We got, she was getting very upset, and not a good thing, but she face covered when she started to get the bad scores because she didn't want to watch it. And he very tenderly put his hand over her hand as well. He pulled her into his chest. He kissed the side of her face. And then when they got to this point where they knew that they got bad scores, and I think at this point, and I thought it too, I thought they're going to be toast. They're not going to be here next week. they both fell into one another. And what these two do is they have very exclusive conversations that none of the other couples do. All the other couples are looking at cameras, and with these two, they actually turn to one another when they're on screen and use eye contact, and you can see that they want to talk just to one another. My main problem with them is they need to bring that onto the dance floor, because their actual dances lack passion, they lack the sizzle. And if only they could take this romantic plot line that they're so easily bringing off. I mean, they can do fun, they can do comedy together, they can do this wonderful romantic stuff, but they need to bring it on into their routines, because it's not getting there yet.
Yeah, I think with them two as well, you can tell that they'd probably be friends on, like, not the outside world, but like in real life, they seem to have the same humour, the same views and stuff. And like, I imagine he finds her comedy funny and stuff. So obviously there's never going to be a romantic link, but they could have that really close banter friendship onto the dance floor.
Absolutely. And I think we've all probably got friends in our lives that you have got that kind of relationship where it is kind of romantic, but it's not it's a friendship. And they mirror one another. Their body language naturally mirrors one another. There's just something, a slight problem that Ellie's got, that she seems to get just a little bit self-conscious when she gets out there on the dance floor. And I don't know, but this week might have helped, because she's always been that big smile, loads of tease, anything that gets said to her, she's turned it into a comedy and a joke. This week we saw another side of it, because she was in tears about the comments, which was so cruel. And I'm wondering whether maybe that might have unleashed her more serious side, maybe her sadder side. And if they get a lovely romantic sad number next week and they bring that, I still think they could possibly get, maybe not win it, but they could be in the final, I think.
Yeah, and I think both are very likable characters. I think her being a bit more vulnerable might have helped her with the public vote this week, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And she's had a bit of a rough ride, hasn't she, with the judges' comments. I won't name your name, Shirley. But I think people have got behind her because of that, and hopefully it looked as though they got behind her even more for this moment.
Yeah, and then on to our final couple, because we won't be talking about them next week. Ellie and Nikita, who left. So obviously this one was really emotional, because I don't think anyone really wanted to see these go. And I think I personally think they've had like a nice, genuine friendship. But I know you've got some thoughts on their reaction.
They did, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say that they had any problem between them at all. And I thought it was tragic the way that they got booted out, because this was such a good week for them. I thought the dance was amazing. I thought it was her best performance, and so did the judges. And the trouble for Ellie, and you can see here, she was genuinely in tears at this moment. I mean, absolutely distraught, because you can't understand. I think if you've done last week, I think they would have got it, because they knew that wasn't a particularly good routine. But this week, she bounced back. She did the best routine. She got the best scores. I think she got 2 9s. And then she still got kicked out. And that has got to make you think, maybe it's because I'm not popular or, outside. So I really felt for her, because that's not right. But I love Nikita, because ever since this double act started, I said at the very start, Nikita has got the best love affair with the camera. I mean, he is just sublime. His eyes see. He's the only one that is always looking in. It takes two of you looking straight into the camera, doing what he did during their double act. I think he suddenly realised that Ellie got a lot of talent that he hadn't quite banked on, and he realised that she could possibly win. But when it was over, listen, they're all dancers, they're all professionals. Ellie's genuinely in tears, and Nikita, I'm not going to call him out and say that they weren't this, but I think maybe a little Oscar goes to Nikita, because he was standing there doing that sort of like, he did a lip clamp, then he looked up. It was a sort of blinking that they used to do on Dallas at one time. Instead of crying, they used to sort of blink towards the ceiling. And then his chin did start to pucker. I mean, 4 marks for that one. But I wasn't completely convinced by that tearful he was upset, and he would have been upset, and he clearly did like Ellie, but I think that those tears, they all do them. Watch all those dancers. Very rarely are those real tears. They're always poking their eyes and stuff.
Yeah, it's different when it's the dancers, because when it's the celebrities, it's like they only get one shot at it. But for the dancers, they're just clocking off work early. It's like, it's fine.
Yeah. And they'll be popping up in the other routines as well. I mean, I think actually Giovanni was the one that should have been crying for getting kicked out that early. But no, Nikita, as I say, I'm not going to 100% call him out, but I did sit there laughing slightly. It was such a wonderfully theatrical display, but good for him.
Well, that's all we've got time for, I think. So obviously we won't see any fake tears from him next week because he's gone. So we'll have to catch up next week and see what happens this weekend.
Look forward to it.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you very much. See you later.
Bye.